Hey guys, welcome back to episode 2 of the Sheisty Show. My name's Avi Gouda.
And I am his co-host, Akil Narvikar.
And today we're just going to be kind of continuing on what we talked on last time. Last time we just went through the AFC North and the AFC East and kind of looked at team needs and what they needed to do in this offseason to get them ready for the NFL season. We're just going to do the same thing for the rest of the AFC and then the NFC as well. So we can just jump right into it. But so starting out, we can look at the NFC or AFC South. So, so the Jaguars. What do you think about the Jaguars? Obviously, they got Trevor Lawrence last season. He did not pan out to what people expected him to be. Obviously, he's still a very young quarterback and a lot of room for growth. So, where do you think they kind of need to look to this offseason to improve upon last year?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, over the past couple years or so, that's an understatement. The Jags have this isn't exactly an unfamiliar spot for them. Second straight year with the number one overall pick, and yeah, I mean, I can't say like I can't say I watched that many Jags games over the past year. Like even in spite of their deficiencies, I think everyone expected a better year out of Trevor Lawrence, but yeah, again, it's too early to call any of those rookie quarterbacks a bust or to definitively say that they're your guy moving forward. I believe we had that the Jags were lacking on the edge. 50 sacks over the last 2 years is just very jarring to see. And you know, obviously there's same kind of deal with the Jets when we talked about the AFC East last episode. I mean, edge rusher is an issue, but like there's holes all over that roster, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. 50 sacks over 2 years is just not going to get it done in any division, really. I think the AFC South is one of the weaker divisions with, the Texans being there too. And then Titans and Colts, solid teams, I think, but I don't think they're, I don't see them as Super Bowl contenders, or I think they're definitely, in the mix for the playoffs, but it's one of the weaker divisions. So, if the Jags are able to really capitalize on and make this a good draft, I think they have a lot of opportunity to at least be competitive in this division this year.
Agreed. I mean, you could very well at the same time see them right back at this spot, drafting high next year as well. But I mean, yeah, it is one of the weaker divisions in football, and yeah, I don't really, yeah. Moving forward to the Texans.
Yep. Yeah. So the Texans, honestly, the Texans are they're not much better off than the Jags.
Yeah.
They have holes all over the roster. Davis Mills is looking, I wouldn't say good, but he's looking at least adequate for the moment. So, I think they're going to just run with him for this year, see if they can put some, hopefully some more talent around him, either at the, running back or receiver positions, and then see what he can do with that. But I think the Texans are kind of in a position right now where they just need to take the best player available, holes all over the roster.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they're still facing the aftershock of the whole Bill O'Brien era and how he
completely destroyed that team.
Yeah. And even for the foreseeable future with how they went about roster construction while Deshaun was there. But yeah, Davis Mills obviously is your one bright spot. Actually, It was pretty. He had a couple of really, really clean games. Well, I think they beat the Did they beat the? Maybe they lost to the. I remember a game against the Titans at the end of the year where
Yeah,
Davis Mills went
yeah,
off, but um, yeah, I mean, you can make a compelling case that he was the second best rookie quarterback
yeah,
out of the draft last year, and yeah, in spite of the lack of talent, he showed some flat around him. He showed some flashes last year, and I think honestly, a lot of people were expecting the Texans to be um and as bad as the Jags were, they weren't. But that's a very small moral victory.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of work to be done to say the least.
Yep, yep. Completely agree. I don't really think there's any one spot we can narrow it down to where their team needs help. So we can just move on, honestly. So taking a look now at the Titans. So Titans have like I said, I really don't see them as Super Bowl contenders. They've had a very good roster over the past couple of years. Definitely playoff bound every single year. But I think I just don't think Ryan Tannehill is gonna be the quarterback to help take them to the Super Bowl, help them win a Super Bowl. And with the Derrick Henry era, probably I don't want to say coming to an end, but it's on the back half for sure. With that foot injury last year, he missed half the season. So, we might see the Titans draft a successor soon or try to lighten his workload this season too. So I think that their window to win is kind of coming to a close and they need to try and capitalize on Derrick Henry as much as they can these next year or two.
Yeah, I mean, both the Titans and Colts, Titans to a greater extent, I feel have benefited a lot from great coaching over the last couple of years. Mike Vrabel's tenure in Tennessee has been really, really, really successful. They were the 1 seed last year, albeit one and done. But yeah, it comes back to Tannehill and the last couple playoff losses, you've pretty much seen the blueprint is out on the Titans, and it's just wall out Derrick Henry and make Ryan Tannehill beat you, and he's come up blatantly short in their last 3 playoff losses to the Chiefs in the title game, then to the Ravens, and then last year to the Bengals. All 3 of those teams knew exactly what they were doing and making him be the guy, try to beat them, and he couldn't each one of those times. In fact, Bengals game, he probably was the reason they lost. He was the reason they lost that
Definitely
game.
was the reason they lost.
And
picked to start the game and to finish the game off. So I mean,
I mean, Derrick Henry there's only so many more years you can just keep running him into the ground. Eventually, we all know how it is with running backs and how short their primes are. And especially someone as physical as Derrick Henry. I also wouldn't say it's over because last year, even while he was healthy, he still ended up like one of the leading rushers in the league, despite
it was his stats last year were insane.
Oh yeah, on a per game
8
basis,
games.
I think
He was like,
yeah,
he was 9th in rushing yards. He was like
on a
top
per
10,
game
I think, and then
basis,
touchdowns. Like it was insane.
I think he was like on pace for an even better year than he was the year before when he rushed for 2,000.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, he's a beast as always, but the skill talent definitely could use some work. And then
and they added Robert Woods this offseason too, and they got him for a pretty big discount in my opinion. They traded a 6th rounder for him, so not nothing crazy at all.
I mean, he's a good compliment to AJ Brown. I mean, he can probably be even better if you can find a quarterback.
My one concern is, when Julio came to Tennessee, I don't think he was like I don't think he was as elite as he used to be, but I don't think he was washed either. So
Oh yeah,
is Robert Woods kind of going to end up in that same
yeah,
position?
because he's coming off a pretty significant. What was it, ACL tear?
ACL,
Yeah,
yeah, and I just don't think that offense has enough,
yeah.
you know,
Mhm.
as good of quarterback play as they need to, one, to support both those wide receivers, but two, to you know, get to win games when it counts, and they need their quarterback to step up. So yeah. Yeah, but also another thing I wanted to touch on is AJ Brown probably wants a new contract this year, so they're gonna have to
Yeah.
pay him soon. He's probably not happy that they haven't, extended his contract to this point, but that's something that we'll keep an eye on.
And then yeah, last up in the South, we got the Colts, who yet again for the third straight year are trying to just like plug in quarterbacks, veteran quarterbacks at that,
Right.
Philip Rivers in his last year, then Carson Wentz, and now this year they're giving it a run with Matt Ryan. Um,
I do think Matt Ryan, who was before Carson Wentz?
Philip Rivers in
Philip
this
Rivers, yeah.
last year, yeah, he was
Okay.
he was kind of cooked at that
Philip
point.
Rivers was that was yeah. Let's just skip past that. I think Matt Ryan is probably, the best straight up passer out of those three
Yeah,
quarterbacks.
yeah, and he probably has more juice left.
Oh yeah,
I'm pretty
he's still pretty
confident.
young. He's like 33, I think. So
Yeah,
it's not like quarterbacks we see nowadays with like
yeah,
Brady and Rodgers, and like those guys will play well into their 40s. So
yeah.
I don't think age is an issue at all. It's just if
Yeah,
you'll be able
Aaron's
to,
soon to be. Yeah,
yeah. So yeah, something there. Michael Pittman had a great year last year. I think he went for like he went for over 1,000 yards and like 90 catches or something. So pretty solid season. I think obviously they're a very run heavy team with Jonathan Taylor,
yeah,
as they should be when you have a running back that's and an O line that is as good as it is.
oh, yeah.
So but I think if you're able to get someone across from Michael Pittman that can stay healthy, I don't think Ty is the answer. I don't think Paris Campbell is the answer. So if you're able to get someone across and get that offense going with Matt Ryan coming and being there for at least 2 years, I think that that could be a dangerous offense.
Yeah, I mean, Frank Reich has done a great job in Indy. Obviously, they've 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 run in. They're at a bit of a crossroads at QB with the abrupt retirement of Andrew Luck. Ever since then, they've just kind of been holding off on
Yeah,
finding their next franchise guy.
yeah. It was honestly unfortunate just because like they're not bad enough to get like a
Yeah,
top 7, 8 pick where you can get one of those elite quarterbacks,
yeah,
but they're not good enough to obviously make a
yeah.
run. So
I mean, yeah, they'll as we said earlier, it's probably Colts and Titans battling for this division this year again. Last year, they looked like a playoff team for most of the back end of the season,
oh yeah.
and yeah, looked like the team that nobody would have wanted to play.
Mhm.
But just a horrendous loss in Jacksonville at the end of the year.
Yeah, yeah,
And
definitely unfortunate.
yeah, I mean they'll probably be in a similar position yet again this year.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, we can move on from there. Last of the AFC, we got the AFC West. This is probably the most intriguing division in all of football. You got four, top tier quarterbacks. You got, pretty good receiving corps for all the teams. Great offenses, good defenses. So like this might be the best division in football. Um,
I mean, at least on paper, it looks like the NFC West handed the torch to the AFC
yeah.
West as best division. All of these teams made pretty big splashes this offseason.
Oh yeah.
Starting we can start with the Chargers with um acquisition of Khalil Mack over the offseason.
Mhm.
And
And JC Jackson.
oh yeah, that's right.
So
Yeah.
two huge defensive acquisitions.
Yeah, I mean, the Chargers defense over the last couple of years, like it has felt like it should be better than it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
And those two are massive, as you
That's
said.
huge. You knew that offense was already good. Now the defense should play up to its
Yeah.
what it looks like on paper.
I mean, Khalil Mack is probably he's still fantastic, but he's probably a little bit out of his prime at this point.
I think
But
it's 30 maybe. So
nonetheless, having him out there with Joey Bosa is yeah, it should
dangerous.
make their D line a lot more formidable.
Oh yeah.
Offense, I mean, that's that. Yeah, as you said, that's not really a problem.
Yeah.
They know they have their dude at quarterback, and then weapons all around. Eckler in the backfield, and then Keenan Allen, and Mike Williams getting that big contract extension this year.
Yeah, probably. I won't say anything about it, but I wouldn't have given him that contract.
I mean, as Keenan, yeah, and that as well as being Keenan Allen fantasy owners this past season, it's Mike Williams. Mike Williams has played a very frustrating part in
he's very much boomer bust every single game.
Yeah, and when he booms, he's taken the lion's share of the points from Keenan Allen.
But that the Chargers, dangerous team all around. Defense should play a lot better this year. And yeah, offense will always, be great with Justin Fields or Justin Herbert at the helm. So nothing to worry about there. We can move on to the Chiefs. Obviously, the biggest thing here, you trade out Tyreek Hill for Juju, essentially. I think obviously you still got Travis Kelce there, probably the best tight end, probably still Patrick Mahomes' go-to guy. The thing about like Tyreek is just that him and Patrick Mahomes, their skill sets meshed so well together. And I don't think you're going to be able to recreate that just because, you're not going to find another 4-3 guy out there. So,
yeah, I mean, I don't see how one wouldn't be able to say the Chiefs have been weakened quite a bit this offseason with just that one move.
Yep.
We touched on it when we talked about the AFC East and how Tyreek is really what gave the Chiefs that take the top off, blow the top off the defense with just like one play, and how they're able to, just string together like 20+ point runs in over the course of like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And yeah, they still have speedsters. Obviously, we've always known that, but that's always been as a compliment to Tyreek, rather than guys like Hardman and Sammy Watkins now becoming like, they're kind of, I mean, on level footing with Juju, for all intents and purposes. But they're the Chiefs. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes. So you don't worry about the offense.
They'll find a way to win. Their offense will still be should click just fine. Defense, one huge thing is Tyrann Mathieu still hasn't re-signed, and he was obviously the big playmaker on that defense. So losing him would be huge for that defense, and obviously the defense is already the weaker side of the ball for Kansas City. So it'd be hard to replace him.
Yeah, I mean, I would still give the Chiefs the edge just off of their just pedigree as favorites to win this division, but it isn't. It's by a smidge now rather than they're head and shoulders above the rest. I think this year you have to this past season, I felt like there was something was just off with the Chiefs throughout the season. It was those first kind of cracks in the armor.
Mhm.
You never seen Patrick Mahomes make as many mistakes as he was early in that. Obviously, cleaned it up over the back end of
Yeah.
the season, but still, they never seemed like the Chiefs teams that Mahomes has been at the helm of the years prior.
Yeah.
They looked it for half against the Bengals, and then those issues flared up really out of nowhere in the second half yet
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
I would look for them to clean it up at least on the offensive end. Defense was an issue all of this past season.
Yeah. Defense never
For
really won him games either, to be honest.
yeah,
So, that's always going to come back to Patrick Mahomes and just
yeah,
praying he has 13 seconds left on the clock.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, Travis also one last thing on the Chiefs is
Yeah.
Kelsey is a lot older than a lot of people think.
Oh yeah, he's like what? He's 32 this season, 32, 33.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I'm sure he'll still be great, but
yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah,
He's yeah,
their receiving front is it's gonna look a whole lot different
yep,
this year, but there's still again it's still Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, so
yeah,
they'll find a way.
yep, definitely. All right. I think that's all we want to cover with the Chiefs. We can go ahead and move on to the Broncos. Obviously, a whole new look this season with the offense. Acquiring Russell Wilson, and you already got two very good receivers on the outside with Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton, and then Tim Patrick too. You got a solid receiving corp. Yeah, and Javante too. So good running back, good all around offense now. I think they should be able to do big things this season on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, on paper, it seems like the Broncos should be great. Like right there with the Chiefs this year, competing for winner of this division.
Yeah,
We'll see how it pans out, of course. But the Broncos over the last couple of years, ever since they won that Super Bowl,
yep,
they really haven't. Of course, it's not as great as that all-time Super Bowl defense in 2015, but the defense really hasn't dropped off since. It's always been a staple. And over the last couple of years, you've transitioned from Demarius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, all those guys who were there when Peyton was there, to another now talented group of receivers,
yeah,
as you mentioned. The one piece was quarterback, and they went out and got their guy. They were all, of course, looking into Rodgers. And funny enough, when Aaron declared he was gonna resign and it looked like they'd lost out, hours later they snagged Russell Wilson.
the trade for this was crazy too. It was just picks, right? It was like 5 picks.
Picks, and I think they gave up like Noah Fant and Shelby Harris, I think.
No, they only acquired. Oh, they got. Oh no, I'm thinking of something else.
I think in
Yeah,
addition
they lost Drew Lock too. Yeah, I'm thinking of a different trade.
I think they get Drew Lock, like Shelby Harris and
Yeah,
Noah Fant were the notable players
yeah,
lost.
yep.
But I mean, they're still poised to get out, max out Russell Wilson's last couple of years of his prime. It was kind of a down year for us in his
Mhm.
last year in Seattle, but
Yep.
looked a whole lot more like himself at the end of the season. So that's encouraging, and I expect the Broncos to be great this year.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, honestly, just looking at this division, you got to flip a coin to see who's gonna come out on top.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So Raiders, um, obviously the big acquisition this year, Devontae. And last year Hunter Renfro was playing very, very good too. So
Mm.
you know, you got a decent receiving corps, and with you know, one of the best tight ends in the league, and Darren Waller. So Derek Carr has a lot of weapons there. Um, the defense, I think, acquired Chandler Jones too. So um, getting some help on the edge as well. So um,
I mean, it's wild that Derek Carr is like definitively the worst quarterback in this
yeah,
division by
yeah,
far,
that's
and
insane.
he's no slouch. Yeah. um. Yeah. I mean, even the Raiders, they I could see them being better than they were this past year and still likely miss the playoffs because
Just
um
because of the division they're in. Yeah,
the division, yeah, they're probably going to be fighting for one of those last wild card
yeah,
spots. But yeah, I mean, with the acquisitions this past season, um yeah, Derek Carr hasn't really ever returned to that form he had when he was in the MVP race a couple years ago before he
yeah,
got injured.
yeah,
That very well might be the case this year. He was still very good, albeit the last couple of
yeah.
years. Last year especially was key for them. He played better than his stats last year would indicate. But they're it's an uphill battle.
Yeah,
Is
yeah, for sure. Uh, yeah. You really got to flip a coin to see who's going to win that division. I think the Chargers are the strongest personally, but just because of the defense they have. But you know,
I
just gotta
think
wait and see, I guess.
yeah.
All right, so finally we're done with the AFC teams. We can just uh, go ahead and talk about the NFC South now. So starting off with the Bucks. So obviously big Tom Brady retirement news, and then on retirement news, so he's back with the Bucks. Um, they did lose Bruce Arians, so what do you kind of think about that? Do you think that's a big loss in terms of you know, the offensive mind that he kind of was?
I mean, there was speculation that that was just because Brady and him were butting heads.
Yeah,
And I don't find that hard to believe with, when he first came to Tampa last year, um, Arians kind of hung him out to dry the first couple weeks,
yeah,
when he played whenever he played poorly.
yep,
But I think, yeah, I mean, I think they'll be okay. But obviously, Tom Brady has a lot of input in and how they run their offense. You know, you saw them pretty much go from the Arians, no risk it, no biscuit,
yeah,
like emphasis on the deep ball style to more of what Brady's comfortable with
yeah,
over the 2 years he's been in Tampa. Um, this might be the most challenging year for them in the Brady Bucks era. Lucky for them, this division has weakened significantly, so they're
yeah.
kind of a no-brainer to still win it.
Yeah, definitely still have a hold of it.
But last year they made an emphasis on bringing back everyone from their Super Bowl team, and this year they've actually ended up losing a couple of
Yeah,
pieces, particularly off their offensive line with
yeah. I think they lost Alex Kappa, Cincinnati. He went to Cincinnati, and then Dominican Sue, and then Gronk also are just they're not sure if they're going to
up in the
return. So
area.
a couple of big losses there.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they'll be okay because their division is soft, and you can't really, Tom Brady is 40 going on 45 this season. So as great as he's played, you never know, because in sports, when there's a drop off, it's usually precipitous and out of nowhere.
Yeah,
But I mean, yeah, at the level Brady's been operating, and still having very good weapons on offense, you'd still expect them to finish with upwards of like 11-ish wins.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. 6 wins, yeah, they're gonna get in this division.
Yeah.
Those aren't super hard wins to get. So
Yeah, I mean Birdie still hasn't beaten the Saints in his
well,
whole Tampa tenure. They've had his number, but yeah, nonetheless,
yeah.
they'll be okay.
Yep. All right. So Panthers, obviously last season, um, they got Sam Darnold, and then he was looking pretty good for the first game or two, and then just fell off a cliff. So they don't really have an answer. There have been some rumors about him, or about them looking at Baker Mayfield, but I don't think that that's actually gonna, formalize or anything. So,
Mhm.
you know, answer question still at quarterback. The receiving corps, Terrence Marshall has not been great. DJ Moore, obviously, very good route runner, very good receiver. So he's a solid piece in that offense. Christian McCaffrey as well. When he's on the field, if he can stay healthy. Other than that, they lost Robbie Anderson, I'm pretty sure. So
Yeah,
definitely I wouldn't call it a rebuild, but it's a kind of like a bridging year, maybe.
yeah.
I don't know exactly what to call it, but
Yeah, their defense, I believe, still had had a decent year.
yeah,
Started out really, really well. Um, but yeah, I mean the Panthers, like unlike the Colts, they're in a position to actually like draft their next quarterback in the next
yeah,
couple of years. I don't really know what the plan has been with just trying to plug in someone else's like someone else's just
yeah,
used quarterback that
yeah,
they didn't want, like Darnold, and then brought back Cam, which was cool because it was Carolina, but he's got nothing left,
yeah.
unfortunately. But yeah,
What position do they draft this year again? Do you know?
not sure. Let's
Let me check.
should be relatively
Yeah, they're
high.
sixth, so definitely got a shot at a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, it depends if you want a quarterback this year or want to look to next year.
Mhm.
Of course, usually when at least in the last couple of years when we've had a draft that people aren't very high on quarterbacks, it ends up faring better than the ones where
Yeah,
they're like, this is a great QB class.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, yeah, they had Bridgewater the year before, then Darnold. Yeah, I don't know what the plan is. You should, yeah, they actually are in position to get a quarterback, unlike the Colts that we talked about, a similar kind of thing. So
yeah,
yeah, whenever they see a guy who they think that that they might want to be their franchise QB,
mm,
they got to pull the trigger.
yeah, definitely. Because C-Mac's not super young anymore. Just signed DJ Moore to a big deal, so they got to try and
Yeah.
find a quarterback to just make it happen. Yeah. Okay. So moving on, Falcons. Obviously lost Matt Ryan this season, and I think they signed Marcus Mariota. But quarterback is honestly the least of their worries. They have like one of the worst pass rushes in the league.
Mhm.
Um, Calvin Ridley's not there. Pretty much Kyle Pitts is their only
Yeah.
solid receiver right now. So they got a lot of holes as well, and I don't think it's just going to be solved in one off season or anything. I think they got to kind of go into rebuild mode and start from the bottom.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they're definitively in a rebuild now. Having traded their long time franchise quarterback. Um Yeah, it's been a theme with the Falcons over the last couple years and just having a very porous defense. Um, it's probably squandered away some of Matt Ryan's prime years with that.
Oh yeah.
And uh, yeah, I mean they they've got a lot of work to do in a lot of different areas.
Yeah.
It's
No one spot you can really point to, but I think what they're drafting eighth, so relatively high pick. So hopefully they can make that work out for them.
mm,
Yeah, but yeah, moving on. Saints. Saints are kind of intriguing. So Jameis last year, I forget how long he played for, but he got injured pretty quickly toward his ACL, I'm pretty sure. So, didn't get to see what he could do with that offense. But now with him returning on a 2-year deal, and then Michael Thomas, fingers crossed, is healthy this year and then able to play. And then Kamara, again, hopefully he gets through that legal situation fine. But the offense isn't, at least on paper, doesn't seem horrible this year. So they might be able to put up some points.
yeah, I mean
Yeah,
Jameis last year actually I thought looked pretty good in his limited action at
yeah,
QB. Really derailed the Saints season. Definitely Sean Payton retiring now. That that
yeah.
that's probably gonna make their offense look, at least scheme wise, look a whole lot different. But
Yeah.
um,
I
I
actually
think
think one of I forget who exactly it was, but it's someone in the Saints organizations that's going to be their head coach now. So hopefully, I think he's been working under Sean Payton for a while. So hopefully that scheme doesn't change too much and it doesn't hurt their offense too much. But
yeah,
it's just
it'll be interesting to see regardless in the post Sean Payton era. Last
yeah,
year definitely looked like they were trying to just limit how many times Jameis could hurt them with some of the decision making.
yeah,
They seem, yeah, I mean they seem to be okay with rolling with him, uh, moving forward.
yeah,
Their defense has been great, really, ever since they became playoff contenders again at the back end of Breeze's career, and they still are quite, they're quite formidable on that end.
mhm,
Um, yeah, I mean they're still probably, I don't know, they'll be middling, I feel like, this
yeah.
season.
I don't think they have a shot at the playoffs this year,
But
but
yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
at least they have something to work with.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Hopefully Jameis can stay healthy this year. We
yep,
didn't
yep.
get we only got teased with the early results of LASIK Jameis.
Hopefully that paid off.
All right, so yeah, moving on to the NFC East. Um, really had the reputation of carrying on the reputation of being the NFC least in spite of two playoff teams this past year. But yeah, let's just start at the bottom with the Giants. Um, they're coming off another rough year. I don't really understand why they're so committed to moving forward with Daniel Jones. He's arguably the worst starter in the league, and last year they actually tried to, get him some help with what, Kenny Galladay there,
Yeah. And
and
Kadarius in the draft, Kadarius Tony.
yeah, yeah, and Saquon was supposed to be healthy again, but yeah, that did not.
Saquon, he just does not look like himself after, since his rookie season. He
Yeah,
obviously looked amazing that year. And then since then he is not.
He had like what, like he was starting to play better. Because I had him in fantasy. Right before he got injured, he had a pretty good game
Yeah.
against the Saints. I remember where they upset them. But I mean, yeah, the Giants, the they're they're in a rough spot
Yep.
to say the least.
Another team with just a whole a roster full of holes. So
Yeah, and they seem insistent on moving forward with Daniel Jones. So uh, I
good luck to
I
them.
guess we just, yeah, you can expect more of the same until proven otherwise.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Next team up. We got the Commanders. Okay, so they acquired Carson Wentz this offseason. So I think he's probably the best quarterback that they've had in a while. I'm not saying he's great or anything, but you know, they had Dwayne Haskins, and then they had Taylor
Fitzpatrick.
Taylor
Yeah,
Heineke. So and Fitzpatrick. Yeah, Fitzpatrick only played like what, one or two
he didn't play.
games.
Yeah,
Yeah, before getting injured, so we didn't really get to see any of him. But Carson Wentz probably the best quarterback that they've had in the last 3-4 years at least. So that'll be interesting to watch. Um, yeah, I know they have a couple of cornerbacks. I know William Jackson, and then someone else is I think this is their last year on contract, so that's something they got to start looking into. Either you know getting through the draft or potentially re-signing them if they want. Um, yeah, and then Antonio Gibson, obviously, when he's been healthy, he's looked decent. JD McKissick's a huge weapon in that passing attack too. So um,
Mm.
I think if they're able to put someone across from Terry McLaurin, I know Curtis Samuel was acquired last year, but he did not play at all just because of injury. So he's a dynamic playmaker. If he's able to get healthy and look like he did with Carolina, I think they have, you know, it's at least a decent offense, probably the best offense they've had in the last couple of years. So
yeah. I mean, last year, unlike the year where they made the playoffs and gave the Bucks a pretty good fight in the wild card round, um, I'm not sure what changed totally personnel wise, if at all. I can't really speak to that, but their defense did drop off considerably in the fact that they weren't really able to win them games in the same way that they were down the stretch of that year before where they made the playoffs. When Taylor Heineke and, yeah, Fitzmagic are your options at QB, that's, you kind of are going to need your defense
yeah,
to stand tall. And I will say, yeah, Carson Wentz, albeit he's never been the same since his MVP year. He was the front runner for MVP before getting hurt his sophomore season.
mhm.
He had quietly like pretty serviceable year last year. I mean, the Colts didn't really ask him to do much. He was the game manager pretty much, but he didn't really, yeah, he didn't lose games the way he did with his turnovers in the back end of his Philly tenure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Like
was,
they didn't really give him the opportunity to with how much they ran the ball, which you know it worked. So
yeah. I mean, yeah, he's definitely their best QB they've had in a minute. Yeah, you'd look for that defense to bounce back this year. And yeah, we'll
yeah,
see. They'll probably another middling team. But middling can win you this division. So
yeah,
they'll be in that mix.
yeah. I think yeah. Honestly, anyone's in that mix this year, except I don't want to put the Giants there, but the other three teams in this division, you know, I think they have a shot at winning.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean
Um,
the year that the Commanders that I'm referring to, or the Commanders ended up going to the playoffs, was one of the most pathetic years for this, even this division, when
yeah,
every team was a good bit below 500, and each one of them were still competing for the spot in the last
It was
week
a
of the
bad
season.
year.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we'll see. We'll see if what we get out of them this year, because I don't see a team this year like the Cowboys last year that are outright favorites.
Yeah.
With all that's gone on with this Cowboys offseason. So
Yep. Agreed.
yeah.
Yeah, honestly. Okay, so we can transition straight into the Cowboys from there. Honestly, we were talking about them a little. So Cowboys had a couple of pretty big losses. Obviously, Amari Cooper's gone. You lost Lyle Collins and Connor Williams, two huge pieces on that offensive line that's been, great for the last however many years.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so just those losses alone. Yeah, I think the receiving corps is still fine. You still have CD and Michael Gallup, but it's not anything close to what it was last year when Gallup was your number 3. CD was a great slot receiver too, so we're probably going to see him play more on the outside and get doubled more often with less weapons this year. So yeah, one of the brighter spots last year was Michael Parsons. Obviously, he was defensive rookie of the year, I believe, right?
I think so.
Okay, I'm pretty sure he was, because
Yeah,
so
he was terrific last
he
year.
was great last year. So that's a great addition to that defense. But yeah, I think they still have a hold of this division just because it's not a great division by any means. So I think they'll still be able to grind out and get some wins. But
Yeah, and they still have probably by a good distance the best QB in this division
oh
in
yeah,
Dak. Um, you know, I get yeah. We know what Dak is more or less at this point in his
yeah,
career.
yeah,
He's above average for sure,
yeah,
but as you saw last year, there's it's that the great QBs usually win you a lot. You can tell they can win you a lot of games that you shouldn't win, be able to win. And Dak beats who he needs to beat.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean punching above their weight class has been an issue for the Cowboys outside of this division. And I think, yeah, last year was a bit of a disappointment with how their season went, and they they looking back now with how much they've lost from their core over the past couple of years, that was probably their last year to really just go all in with this core. And
Yeah.
yeah, that wild card loss was tough.
Yeah.
I don't. I think that Amari and Dak they clicked initially, but it kind of lost steam.
Yeah.
As his Cowboy tenure went on. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think their offense will be fine. That bag you threw at Zeke is looking very tough right now.
Especially with those two offensive line, regardless of who they're able to get either in the draft or free agency, it's probably going to be a downgrade. So he hasn't looked like himself over the last year or two, and then obviously that does not help the situation at all. So
at this point, you could probably make a good case that Tony Pollard is the best running back in that backfield.
Yeah, he looked good when he was on the field. Yeah.
Yeah. But they'll again be in the mix in this division as all of them.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think that I'd give them the edge as far as favorites. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Last team in the NFC East, we got the Eagles. Yeah, so another problem for them was, just not being able to get to the quarterback. And then in addition to that, you got Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave hitting free agency next year, so that's obviously just not going to help. So they really got to target D line and just defense in general to try to get to the quarterback more at least. Jalen Hurts had a lot of hype behind him starting last season, and he didn't pan out into exactly what people expected him to. Definitely not what the organization expected him to turn into. He was still decent, I think. But yeah, I think this is kind of a make or break year for him to see if he can really pan out into what they wanted him to be when they drafted him. But yeah, I think who are the receivers? They have Devontae obviously, and then do they have anyone?
Beyond Devontae, it's like it's kind of
yeah, Dallas or no
Dallas Goddard.
Yeah, Goddard. Yeah, so he's a solid receiving option too, but I think that they need to, if they want Jalen to actually succeed, they got to put at least another receiver opposite of Devontae. Devontae's been excellent. We knew he was a great route runner, but when he came in, so his first season looked promising, and hopefully Jalen is able to live up to expectations this year.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Jalen, I don't know if you're ever going to be able to really believe in him as a passer. And at the end of the day, that's the name of the game. So I have my doubts regarding him, but still, of course, they made the playoffs as a wild card team, and he still made plays with his feet primarily, and yeah, I mean he's kind of like a more raw and much worse Lamar Jackson at this point. But yeah, they've been good on defense for the last couple of years, going back to that Super Bowl. It's a lot of it is still in that Super Bowl core, if I'm not mistaken.
Their D line, I think, has gotten, it hasn't been as great as it was.
Oh yeah, but yeah, they're gonna, of course, need help on the outside. Outside of Devontae Smith, as we noted earlier. Who was their running back this year? I forgot.
Miles Sanders.
He was.
I think he was injured for a lot of last season. So I think it was Kenneth Gainwell got a decent amount of action.
Don't they have like Boston?
Boston Scott as well. Yes. Yeah, you're right. So both of those guys, I think, were kind of splitting touches, but hopefully Miles Sanders is healthy this season and he's able to, produce. I don't think he'll ever be an elite back by any means. I think even before his injury, he was never, amazing.
Just like decent. Yeah.
He was, functional. So we'll see what they're able to do with that offense though. And then, yeah. Yeah. All right. You have any other comments for the Eagles or the NFC East?
Yeah, I mean, they'll probably again find themselves, considering the Cowboys aren't a runaway favorite this year, they'll probably be, both of those teams will probably be battling for this division.
Yep.
But yeah, aside from that, we can move on to the North.
All right. Okay, so we can just start off with the Vikings. Obviously, so they re-signed Kirk Cousins this season. Honestly, the offensive side of the ball really doesn't have any glaring issues from what I see. You got Jay Jeff, you got Adam Thielen, who else? Dalvin Cook. So it's a pretty solid offense. And Kirk Cousins, I think, has been kind of appreciated over the last couple of years. I think he's been a very, solid quarterback, especially when you look in the grand scheme of things relative to the other quarterbacks in the league. He's always able to make good decisions, pretty good throws. So
yeah, definitely. I think especially throughout his Minnesota tenure, he's been underrated because he has not been the issue for for
Oh yeah.
them
No.
missing the playoffs, I think, every year with him. But it just so happened that when he got there, their once fearsome defense, literally the year before, that had them in the
Yeah.
NFC title game, just has never been the same since.
Yeah.
And um yeah, offensive side of the ball is really not a concern. Kirk has been very good. Of course, there's the usual, Kirk not showing up in big games. That's still a thing, but oh wait, no, I misspoke earlier. I just remembered they went to the playoffs and lost to the Niners in 2019 season, I think. And but regardless, yeah, I mean, those concerns are still there, but like Kirk is not the problem, and he's performed pretty well for them.
Yeah.
They continue to have these issues in very close games. They squandered several one-score games, I recall, this year. But that's just been a Vikings thing, just like the Falcons. They've struggled in those tight games.
Yeah.
Was that their coach got that they parted with what
Yeah, they parted with him. But, hold on. One minute.
Mike, like
I don't remember, honestly. I know that he was the
yeah, I know
Bengals
he's the
defensive
Bengals
coordinator before, but I forget his name.
I mean, Mike Zimmer. Oh yeah.
They parted with him. So hopefully the coaching change will bring better days for them, and hopefully they're able to win these tight games that we know they're gonna be in. So
yeah, that coaching tenure had run its course. Zimmer, their calling card under him was their defense, and that has just not been up to par the last couple of years. So.
And I think they have a solid shot at kind of at winning the division this year with the Packers losing Devontae. That's huge. So they don't really have a receiver. Obviously, got to see what they do in the draft, but
and somehow they've always had it seemed to have Green Bay's number at like once a year. Pretty much, they beat the Packers.
Yeah,
they're the one team in this division that's given Aaron Rodgers like relatively more trouble, as he's had his way with the other two.
Yeah. You also on the defensive side of the ball, hopefully they're a little better this year. I know that wasn't their strong suit last year, but they got Jordan Hicks and then Zadarius Smith from the Packers as well. So hopefully those two can kind of help them shore up the front of that defense and make some plays for them. But we can move on. So Lions are next up. This is kind of just another team with a lot of holes. They traded ever since the trade with Matt Stafford. Even before, they were never a great team, and then after that trade, you got Jared Goff at the helm. So we know that he's not going to be your guy to go out and win you a Super Bowl. They have holes all over the roster, really.
I will say they're what was it? Man, I really I'm not doing well with coach names today, but their new was a Dan
Campbell.
Dan Campbell, yeah. I would call his first year like he did the best with what he had. The Lions were they were a bit of a frisky team, as far as they were in a lot of games. They were competitive. In a lot of games you probably thought on paper they had no business being competitive in. And staved off the winless season. And they play hard for Dan Campbell, which is good to see, but there's only so much that's gonna overcome the talent deficit on this team at a lot of different areas.
Yeah, they definitely have a lot of holes.
Yeah,
I think they allowed the most pass TDs and higher passer rating since um, you know,
no,
last year. So that's obviously another thing. You can't have a bad offense and allow teams to go crazy against you in the past. So
mm,
I think they're going to stick with Jared Goff this year, and then hopefully they can give him some talent to work with. They added DJ Chark too, and Amon-Ra St. Brown was excellent in the second half of last season. So
mm.
um, if they're able to get him some more help on that offensive side, and then shore up the defense as much as they can through the draft, hopefully they can win a couple more games this season.
Yeah, I mean, as we know, Goff is not the QB that's gonna be able to put a band-aid on a lot of those holes on the team.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you're gonna need to give him some help. And I mean, as we said earlier, you don't see him being their guy for much longer. You'll probably see them draft a quarterback soon.
yep,
Uh, and yeah,
yeah.
it's
They have the second. Yeah, they have the second pick this year. So who
yeah.
knows?
If they see their guy, yeah, they're you could see that. But yeah, the Lions in another team that's in a familiar spot, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
All right. Well, okay. So moving on, we got the Bears next up. So I think the biggest thing here is, we talked a little bit earlier. The only quarterback that was really good last year was Mac Jones, and then maybe Davis Mills, but Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, those guys were not as good as
mm,
they were expected to be. So I think the biggest thing here is try and set him up for success. They lost Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson wasn't a huge factor last season at any point. I don't know what it was, but he didn't get the targets or the catches that he's used to. So um, Darnell Mooney was a good piece on that offense. Same with David Montgomery. So I think if they're able to get a couple more um, receivers to help out Justin Fields, we know he's probably already. He reminds me of Russ a little bit in
mm.
the sense of he's kind of mobile and he has an absolute cannon. So we've seen him throw it deep several times, and he has an absolute cannon. So um, yeah, they just need to find ways to put pieces around him that'll help him succeed.
Yeah, I mean, the Bears another team that's going to be rolling with a new coaching regime after parting ways with Matt Nagy last year. And I thought, yeah, that was definitely the right move for them.
Matt Nagy was not the right choice at coaching for the last couple of years. He did
Yeah,
not work out at all.
yeah, they're the Bears like I don't it's kind of just become a thing with them that their philosophy has been run and defense, and I think that's just dated at this point in the
Yeah,
NFL. You can't win with great defense and a great running game. Yeah,
yeah,
you're gonna need your QB to be a significant factor if you're gonna have any kind type of success. And Justin Fields, he had some flashes, I'd say, last season. That Steelers game on Monday night probably being the best of them.
hmm
Um, but also I'm not gonna lie. I mean, as we're both Buckeyes, and like I thought heading into the draft last year that I didn't think Fields is gonna be good in the league.
yeah,
Take that for what you will, just because he holds on. He's prone to holding on to the ball for a really long time. But nonetheless, it's too early to make an assessment one way or the other with him. Um,
yeah.
the Bears O line has been weak over the past couple of years. That doesn't help, as well as the skill talent. If you're looking for Allen Robinson to be your number one, as they have the last couple seasons, it's yeah. I mean, you need to give him some help to at least try to see what he can do. And yeah, I mean, I'd expect him to be better than he was last season, but um I don't know. The Bears, yeah, there's, as I said, their philosophy has been so much predicated on defense, and that defense has gotten weaker and weaker as the years
Mhm.
have gone by since they made that playoff game and lost on the double doink. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, we'll see. I have a lot of questions with them, but yeah,
Yeah. No, I agree. Um, yeah, I don't have anything else on the Bears, but
I mean,
uh,
if Fields turns out to have like a drastically better year, you could actually see them like compete in this division, but yeah, we're gonna have to see it first to
yeah, I think one thing with Fields is I don't Ohio State's, college sets up quarterbacks that Ohio State does not run an NFL type scheme.
yeah.
So it's hard. It's definitely a harder transition for him to make to the NFL as well, with
Mhm.
probably a lot more plays and a lot more
Yeah, I mean
passing and just formation.
he definitely has like the physical tool, some of the
Yeah.
physical tools that a lot of Ohio State QBs that have been taken into the league over the last couple of years didn't. Great athlete, and yeah, he's got a big arm, but
Yeah.
he's still pretty raw. So we'll see how he
Yeah.
progresses.
Yep.
That's probably what's the Bears season is going to depend on whether you're encouraged or not.
Yep. Yep. Definitely. All right. So last in the NFC North, Packers. So they lost Devonte Adams this year, and a stat that I thought was interesting was they haven't drafted a wide receiver in the last 20 years in the first round. And hopefully that changes this year with Aaron Rodgers on a massive contract. You got a couple more years, you get
Mhm.
to kind of utilize him. You need to put as much talent as you can around him. So, like, they absolutely need to try and figure out a way to load up that offense, because right now you have Aaron Jones might be, your best receiver.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I don't. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how the Packers look. Because Rodgers over the past couple of years has become a bit Devontae centric. That's not to say he's not, like, he can still make it work with anybody. You saw that last year when they handed the Cardinals their first loss of the season without Devontae. Um, but his last two MVP years, these last two seasons have been. You've seen Devontae be such a big factor in his production, and last year, the last 2 years really have been the Packers going in all in, especially last year, and really to no avail, which is tough, considering similar to the Cowboys, like last year needed to be the year that you got everything out of going all in basically. And now with a lot of significant figures in your team leaving now, I don't know. Yeah, it's
I think the Packers window has closed. Honestly,
oh
obviously
yeah,
he's
I agree.
yeah. You still have Aaron Rodgers, but I just don't think that front office is. I don't know what they've been doing the last couple of years. That starting with that Jordan Love pick, you had T
Yeah.
Higgins taken 5 picks later, who's turned out in the fantastic player for the Bengals. Like, and he should have been drafted in the first round.
Mhm.
So, like, I just don't know what that front office is doing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they had, after a couple of years post like 2014, ish. They were kind of just like they were just in the playoffs if they made it on the back of Aaron Rodgers still being in his prime and being able to lift a team on his back. And then I would say with the LaFleur era, they've done better as far as like making their defense formidable.
Yeah.
But now it's a completely different team
Yeah.
than you had in those first 3 years with LaFleur, where they made championship game, and then
Yeah.
disappointed last
Yeah.
year. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean
Yeah.
this division's definitely more open than it has been in the past,
Yeah.
just because the Packers probably are not going to be that juggernaut um, that they've been.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. So hopefully they're able to. Hopefully they take someone in the first round that's able to help Rodgers out, or able to get some additional help besides Sammy Watkins. But yeah, I guess we'll see how they do. All right. So moving on, we are on our last division here, the NFC West. So we can start out with the Cardinals. A couple of big losses here. They lost Chandler Jones and then Christian Kirk as well. So you have DeAndre Hopkins on the outside. One of the bright spots last year was James Conner. He turned out to be a pleasant surprise. He was very, very solid last year. But we do know, I think Kyler's not happy in this situation he's in right now. I think he wants to get paid.
Yeah.
So that's something, again, we're gonna have to keep an eye on. And then D-Hop also did not look like the player he kind of, I'm not saying by any means he had a big drop off or anything, but just in terms of stats, he had a small drop off last year. Kyler wasn't funneling him the ball as much.
Yeah. I mean, nonetheless, I think that their season kind of turned on a dime midway through once D Hop went down. Regardless of how he's performing, of course, he has that type of gravity where he garners so much attention that it frees up other guys. And you really saw once he went down, just the rest of their wide receiver core is a bit mid, I would say.
Yeah.
And a lot of those guys, after Kyler started on an MVP type tear at the beginning of the year when they were undefeated, but I just you can't have your offense, so predicated on one guy being there with the way they are with D-Hop.
Yeah.
And of course, we've seen the last 2 seasons now, the Cardinals just totally unravel at the end of the year. Kind of Kyler running out of steam both years at the end. And yeah, I mean, as much as I still see them like hanging around as far as playoff contention, that there is some work to be done to like truly hit contender status.
Yeah.
And having lost Chandler Jones, Christian Kirk, as you said, that does not help the cause. I think, they had AJ for a bit last year too.
Yeah, I think they actually just recently re-signed him as well. So I think he's on like a 1 year, 30 million or something. So, but he's obviously, again.
Yeah, he's not his old self.
Yeah. So and then defensive side of the ball, you lost Chandler Jones and then Jordan Hicks too. So kind of core pieces of that defense. So both sides of the ball are kind of in question. We need to wait to see what the Kyler situation with this contract turns out to be, and then just also hopefully they're able to get some receivers in the draft as well. You have Rondell Moore as well, but he's very undersized. I think he's like 5'8".
Mhm.
170 or something. So, we don't. I wouldn't rely on that in the NFL when you have big 6'4", 250-pound guys hitting you. So
Yeah.
yeah, they got a couple of questions on both sides of the ball. Um, yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, not really. Ready to move on to the Seahawks.
All right. So the Hawks, obviously the biggest thing, they lost Russell Wilson and then um, released Bobby Wagner too. So they're in like a weird stage right now. I don't. It's like they say they're not rebuilding, but I don't see a universe where you trade Russell Wilson away
Yeah.
and then I don't
Yeah.
know. And then I don't know what happened with Bobby Wagner either. Do you know, was he not, were there no like trade candidates, or
I'm not sure. I'm
because
not
he still had
sure.
a year or two left on his contract and they just released him. So that
Yeah, I
was
mean, all things would point to the rebuild in spite of in spite of what they've said. Um, like it's really the end of an era in Seattle with Russ gone, and I think Bobby Wagner was really the last remnant from the Legion of Boom
yeah,
on the defense. So uh the last couple of years they've really had Russ lift them in spite of holes on the O line and defense at time. Defense throughout pretty much being bend but not break. Um, and I don't know now. I feel like they might be able to like snag out a respectable amount of wins, like I don't know, maybe 6 to 8,
yeah,
maybe just off of coaching.
yeah.
But any chance of competing in this division, I just feel like all three of the teams in this division are head and shoulders above Seattle right now.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, they're gonna have to either move forward with Drew Lock, which seems like what they're doing. Probably just
Probably gonna give him at
quarterback.
least a year just to see if he's,
Yeah.
he was good in college, but probably gonna give him a year, and then if he doesn't pan out, hopefully they do a full rebuild, because right now they're just kind of
Yeah.
teetering on the wall of, so I think
Mhm.
they gotta commit to one way or another.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely lean into the rebuild at this point.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Moving on, we got the Rams. Oh man, they just seem like they're getting better every single day. Honestly, they got Allen Robinson
Yeah.
this off season. Um, Odell's still with the team too, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
I feel like, yeah, indications have been that he's probably gonna be back regardless of
yeah. They lost.
the injury. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So they got Allen Robinson. Odell's going to be back. Cooper Cup, obviously one of the best receivers in the league. Um, lost Robert Woods, but they that replaced him with Allen Robinson, so not a huge deal. One of the bigger people that left was Von Miller. They lost him to, I forget who it was. The Bills.
Yeah.
Bills, yeah. They signed him to like some like 5 year.
Yeah.
It was a massive deal. I forget what it was, but so Rams, I don't think we really have too much we need to say. Obviously won the Super Bowl last year. Should be in contention for it again this year. No glaring holes or anything like that. So yeah, I don't know if you have anything that you wanted to touch on.
Yeah, I mean, it's that they've got pretty much most of their Super Bowl core coming back. Yeah, it's an embarrassment of riches out there in LA right now for the Rams. Um, uh, yeah, they're just very well rounded, and yeah, you saw that saw it on full display throughout the Super Bowl run. And yeah, I could see them like, I don't know, without just when Odell was really finding his stride throughout that playoff run. And he's probably not going to be back for at least, I don't know. He's definitely not going to be ready for the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I think it's around 9 months as the recovery for an ACL. So
Yeah.
for it in February, probably 2 months into the season, he'll be back.
Yeah. Yeah. I could, because you saw in the Super Bowl, once he went out, it became easier to hone into Cooper Cup. But
Yeah,
I mean, you still can't totally stop Cooper Cup. It's
yeah.
arguably
Having
the
Allen
best-
Robinson and
Yeah.
having Odell back would definitely be huge. With having Allen Robinson there at least for the first half of the season while
Yeah, he's
Odell's out.
no slouch either. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
exactly. So I think
McVay at he'll figure something. He'll figure that out.
yeah. So I think I think they're probably Super Bowl favorites again this year.
Not much to be said.
Yeah.
And them.
All right. So now last team, we got the 49ers. Yeah, so I think the last couple of years proven, Jimmy Garoppolo is not the guy. He's not going to go out there and win you playoff games or anything like that. Rumor has it that Trey Lance is probably going to be starting this year, so that's going to be something I'm excited to see, and hopefully he can play just as well as he did in college. Debo requesting a trade was interesting because Niners straight up said they're not going to trade him. Obviously, there's something he's not happy with in San Francisco. I think it's the contract. Probably he wants to be paid the highest paid receiver in the league, which I think is fair for him regarding he's a top 10 running back and a top 10 wide receiver. So yeah. I think he deserves that. But besides that, I think you gotta look at the defensive line a little bit. Nick Bosa, obviously, on one side of the line, got to find kind of an equivalent piece for the other side and interior to kind of help relieve some of the pressure off the offense and off of Bosa. So.
Yeah, I think I heard with Debo that he also isn't content with like he kind of wants to ditch his running back role, which is understandable. Considering just how much more wear and tear it is that added in, and he's a spectacular receiver as it is. So yeah, I get that. And but I still feel if they do part ways, which it doesn't look like that's going to happen, I think Debo would probably be worse off than Shanahan and the Niners would be, because they've just been able to plug anyone into that running game. Mostert looked like a monster back when they went to the Super Bowl. I forgot who it was, like Eli something this year running back. But yeah, I mean that's Shanahan. Like it's been very run heavy. They just, I feel like they'd be fine.
Yeah.
But it looks like he'll be back, and obviously, as we mentioned, the big thing to keep an eye out for is Trey Lance probably getting his run at taking over this team.
Yeah.
If you would have asked me last year itself, I thought they should have started Trey Lance. Because it's another thing with I think it's kind of dated, which is having the QB sit behind like a current starter and try to learn some stuff under them.
I feel like people just saw how good it worked out with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
So
but the thing is with that, like they could have, if they had started him earlier, they might have been able.
It might have been just as good. Yeah.
Yeah. they might have been able to make better out of that team. I think that lost in the wild card game.
Yeah.
But you know, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Trey can do. He's played a couple games last year, looked pretty decent against two teams that weren't very good last year. I think Seattle and what was the other? Seattle and Houston. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I mean, you took Trey. There's a lot of speculation that they might take Mac, but you took Trey because the upside is greater. So if that does work out, like how they probably intend on it doing so, they'll be even scarier because, quite frankly, over the last couple of years, they've been winning in spite of Jimmy G, kind of there as a passenger.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean they're a very well-rounded team as well. And considering they've had the Rams number for the most part, yeah, these two are probably going to be the two health, if health allows for the Niners, who've had some bad injury luck in the past couple of years. But yeah, if they get something out of Trey, then yeah, they'll probably be right there with the Rams up top in this division.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Those are probably the two best teams, assuming Trey pans out and is a solid starter. But yeah, two questions. Do you think Debo is gonna? Do you think he has a chance of holding out? Because he is in his final year of his rookie contract, and there's no reason to risk injury when he's not paid.
Yeah, I haven't thought about that. That's like that is a good thing to ponder. Yeah, I mean, yeah, considering the last year on his contract, yeah, I could see it.
Because that team gets a lot weaker without Debo on the field.
Yeah, I agree.
So, and then yeah, another thing I was thinking about too is Jimmy G kind of complimented Debo's style more, or yeah, kind of in a sense, because Trey Lance has an arm, he can launch it downfield. That's not really Debo's specialty.
Yeah, Debo, I feel like it's a lot about yak.
So. It's a lot more short and mid game. So I wouldn't be surprised if Debo does return. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some regression in terms of stats for him. Not saying by any means the team will be worse, but just in regards to his stats.
I think I mean, you could see Debo.
I could see it both ways.
But you could also, I think we could see more production out of Kittle too. If if Debo takes like a step back or holds out, I feel like Kittle has like really been held back a bit by Jimmy G as far as like production is concerned, because if you watch the games and like everything, he does everything so well, like, and he's just a monster, like physically. You could I mean, we said Kelsey is the best tight end, but like as far as like tools are concerned right now and age also, that's probably in Kittle's favor at this point.
Yep. I'm excited to see what they can do at Lance, and then but any other comments on the NFC West or 49ers?
Not really, not particularly.
All right. Well, I think that wraps up everything we wanted to talk about in terms of teams, their needs, and kind of our thoughts on them. Thank you guys for taking your time today to listen, and we'll see you next time.